What you hear in the background is one of my favorite bands, Garden Variety, from the place that I'm from, Long Island, New York. I saw these guys in the mid '90s at a time when I was really just kind of exposed to a lot of aggressive music. So it's a game changer for me to see a band like this from my home base. Eventually I was exposed to things like Unwound and Slint and a lot of the Discord stuff. But for us, this was a really big deal. So Joe, the drummer, was a huge influence on my playing as I continued throughout my journey in bands. And he, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, was in King Missile, who I'm going to talk to him about. I had that song "Detachable Penis." Many of you may remember that one. But Garden Variety and then Blue Tip, some really interesting bands that never really got off the island, like 52X and eventually Retisonic, and more recently Red Hair, with members of Swizz and Dag Nasty, and just such a prolific dude. Never really got his due, and I really can't wait to get into it with him. So without further ado, we're going to get him on the screen, and if you guys have any questions at all, use the question mark box at the bottom of the screen or leave comments, and we'll do our best to get to it. So let's see if the internet is ready to do its thing. Joe, I'm sending you an invite. So as soon as you get it, so we can get you on here. Joe,
hey,
what's up, brother? How you doing?
All right, so I see how this positions me. Hang on one second. I got you. I got you, dude. I get it. Hang on.
You look and sound great.
I'm looking metal these days.
You actually look very metal now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of ridiculous. My little nephew, Skylar, his hair just is like mine, so I look like the old man version of Skylar. So he's just like, like my brother just said, I'll just let my nephew, I'll let Skylar grow his hair long, and his hair is like mine now. So it's really funny. But
anyway. One thing I noticed about you, Joe, is you don't age. You look exactly the same as I remember from 20 years ago. So
I age a little bit, but I try not to. I do my best. I don't smoke or drink or overeat, so I do my best. But it ain't easy, dude.
Oh man,
I'm an old man. I'm an old man.
The music keeps us youthful. Let me start by just asking you, like, how you're doing, man. Like, have you been managing to get through this insane year, man?
Well, thank you for asking that, Chris. And by the way, it's great talking to another Long Island drummer. And on the Mighty Princess, we all have a lot of respect for you guys. So, I just wanted to put that out there, along with all the other great stuff you've done with Revolver. And we've been all following your career. So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, it's all good. We're a Long Island brotherhood. So
that's right.
We're also Indie Drum Collective brotherhood. So
yes, we're going to have to talk about that.
I've been all right. Luckily for me, I have a boss that basically I was able to persuade her to let me work from home years ago because I get more done working from home. I creative direct. I'm a creative director for a PR firm, a marketing PR communications firm. And she was like, now she works from home and loves it. It was like, she listened to me, so now she works from home. And I work also with Jason Farrell, my bandmate from Red Hair, Retisonic, Blue Tip. He's my West Coast creative director, which is, if you know Jason Farrell, that's like having a god as a second designer. So
that guy's phenomenal. Yeah.
He's phenomenal, and he's a genius, and he's one of my closest, best friends, compadres. But and I love him to death. But regardless of that, this has been really hard, and it's been hard on my relationship. It's been hard on people's health or surrounding me. I think I knew one person that passed away. And I hope you're doing all right.
Sorry to hear that, man. No, I've been really lucky. No one in my circle has gotten sick between family and close friends. So every day I'm counting my blessings, man. I'm sorry to hear that you lost a few people there. That's horrible.
Thank you. Oh yeah, one person. But Jason and I actually have been working for one of the main they were at some point going to do vaccine for this, and now they're working on another area of this. But we were very heavily involved in this very many months ago, to the point where, like this time, well, not this time last year, but around 8 months ago, I was telling drummer friends of mine who are sort of way more famous than either of us, who you might know, I was telling them, if you're flying home, wear a mask. And I told my own parents, when you're flying home, there's something bad going on here. You guys have to put a mask on. They were like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's really bad. And some people listen to me, and some people were like, whatever. And my mom actually ended up getting COVID, but luckily, thank God, she's okay. But it's been.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
It's been harrowing. I'm like between yesterday, I know you don't want to talk about it, neither do I, but between yesterday and like this whole COVID thing, it's been what a horrendous last year this was. I'm so glad it's over. You know, and losing Neil Peart and Eddie Van Halen. Oh my God, I can't even fathom.
It's just been It's been a nightmare. I mean, my parents didn't get sick, but when I hear about other people whose parents have gotten sick, whether they have lost them or not, it hits home. So, you know, I hope your mother is doing okay.
She's doing all right. She's probably watching right now and smiling. So yeah, but
that's fantastic, man. and you're working, right? So you're able to survive.
Steady.
Good for you.
I'm talking to you from my drum room. This is where you and I are doing all these cool drum stuff. This is a whisper room, so it's like I bought it. I saved up and bought it. It's basically a soundproof room, so my neighbors don't kill me, and I could just, you know.
Oh, look at that!
It's like dead. You can't see it, but I have a board over here.
Love it.
I'm going to record the next Red Hair and Blue Tip record on this board right here. So yeah. Right,
so Joe, let's get into your history, because that's something that I don't think has been really told properly. I mean, there's garden variety interviews and interviews with various bands, but you as a individual, to me, as you know, I've always sung your praises. You know, you're everything you do is so great, but underappreciated in my opinion. And I think that's the I don't know if that's the Long Island curse or the whatever you want to call it, or the New York curse, but. You know, in my intro, what I mentioned was that, you know, I heard Fugazi, but I never was exposed to bands like Garden Variety until I walked into the PWAC and you guys were playing a show at the Vale. And I believe that was in 1995. And you know, I compared you to kind of like, you know, bands like Unwound or Slint and, you know, these bands that you find in different areas. But in Long Island, we had you, and that was it. You know, in terms of like representing a style. Before you were in Garden Variety, so where are you from originally? Are you from Valley Stream?
So yeah, you'll probably like this. So I grew up in Queens, really. I grew up in Flushing, right around the corners from many other musicians like D-Generation, people like that. And then my father was a professor of mathematics at Queens College, and he got so good at life insurance during the time that he was a professor. He got into life insurance that he became like the biggest New York life agent ever. And we moved out. It's like we moved on up. We moved out to Great Neck, you know, because that's where all the Jews live. And so we moved to Great Neck. At that time, there was a huge amount of Jewish folks over there. And so we moved there because I am, of course, of the Jewish persuasion, and I was brought up that way. And so it was fine, you know, but again, like when I grew up there, I had the Queens mentality, but now I'm living amongst a lot of very wealthy Long Islanders. And so it was I personally had a difficult time with that, even though I became friendly with a lot of the kids in Great Neck. I just didn't, I was always a Queens guy at heart, and I still am. That's where my heart is. So, you know, long story short, you're asking what I was doing before Garden Variety. I guess the quickest way to say it is, through Queens, all my friends in Queens, they were metalheads. So, you know, much like many of the members of 1.6 Band, I've heard them interviewed where it's like they love metal. Like I was an Iron Maiden guy, the first Ozzy album, solo, you know, Motorhead, all that stuff. And so I played in metal bands, but I was always listening to new wave and punk, especially the Police, especially very early U2. When I was a kid, you know, when I was young, Cheap Trick and Kiss. And Jason and I both share this in our band. Cheap Trick and Kiss were probably my two favorite bands of all time growing up when I was between Queens and Long Island. And so
everyone says that about Kiss all the time. When anyone above 40 or 45 that I interview always has that same story, which is fun. Yeah.
We're children of the late 70s, early 80s. So that's going to happen, you know? And so I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm trying to give you an overview of what happened. So like I played in a bunch of metal bands, even though my heart was in Cheap Trick and Talking Heads and the Police and XTC and other things I was learning about. And we won all these Battle of the Bands and everything, but I wasn't metal enough. If I had this long hair, maybe they would have kept me in the band. They kicked me out. And I was all fucking pissed off. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going to fucking show you. And then I got a little bit better drum set, although it wasn't much better. And I went trying to find musicians of like-mindedness musicians. And of course I couldn't find anybody, but there was a record store that a lot of us Long Islanders, again, the guys in D-Generation, a lot of guys from a lot of prominent New York bands went to these two record stores down on Northern Boulevard at the time, and I met this incredible guy named Bob Hannafy, who subsequently, he was like this rockabilly guy, but he was a punk rockabilly guy with a melodic edge. And Bob said, he turned to me one day after giving me a bunch of Husker Du records and Robin Hitchcock records to learn, because I was asking what else should I open my mind up with, and he hands me Zen Arcade. And I'm still young. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm playing that at home going, oh my God, what have I been missing? This is ridiculous. And so he said, why don't you join my band? I've got a band called the Hasbros. We're like a trio. We need a guy. Can you sing? And I go, yes. My whole family sings. I've been singing since I was young. Can you say that's great? You can sing and you can drum. Okay, great. Let's do it. And we got together and we started playing. And it worked out really, really well. We played all over the city, all over Brooklyn, all over Portchester, you name it.
Are you a teenager at this point?
Teenager,
Okay.
late teenager, like 17, 18.
And then eventually you were. Was I wrong when I said you were in King Missile at one point?
Yeah, so I'll get you that point.
Okay, yeah.
It's a weird. I guess it's a weird chain of events, but yeah, it's a really weird thing. So I'm in the Hasbros. I'm playing Ludlow Street. I'm playing Spring Street bars. I'm spending my entire Pratt, the time that I was at Pratt as a communications design major. Every night I'm going to rehearsal. Every night I'm going to a gig. I'm finishing my homework at 4:30 in the morning. It's like that kind of thing. And so I was trying to, have this sort of dichotomy of my life where I'm like working on my career, and then I'm trying to be a musician, which has never really works, as you know. But I tried, right? So because David Bowie did it, and all the guys from Talking Heads did it. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to try to be a musician and an artist. And so we're playing all these great gigs, and we're having a good time. We have this cute little fan base, but nothing huge. We get this like wall of letters back from record labels going, no, you guys are too late. The grunge is starting. You're too late. And so what ended up happening was, even though we were too late, I still loved the band, and I love the guys in the band. I love Bob and Ken a lot, but I decided that my time is better spent with much heavier material, because I actually really like to play technically more heavy drumming, and I could add my melodic, whatever my melodic edge is, I could add it to the next thing. And I started scouring the Village Voice, scouring the Islandeer, scouring Queen's Tribune, you name it. I just kept looking and looking until one ad, and it's the same story that a lot of bands have, I saw that ad and I was like, holy shit. And the ad said, drummer needed or drummer wanted squirrel bait, which was like, what the fuck? I couldn't even believe it. Squirrel bait Soul Asylum, which is perfect because they were ragged at that point in life. Soul Asylum was still very much an edgy band. They were not what they became. They were really quite amazing. And they influenced a lot of other great bands. But and then one other band, I can't remember whether it was Slint or something else. But anyway, I called them and I spoke to Roman, and I was like flabbergasted by this ad. And he was cool on the phone, and I think he was playing an acoustic guitar at the time when he picked up. Right. And I said, can you send me a tape? And he's like, absolutely. So he sent me a tape to my dorm room. I listened to it. It has a song called Lately on there. I was blown away. I was like, that's it. Like, I was like, that's it. This is what I'm doing. And as much as I love the Hasbros and I love the guys in the band, and I thought they were great, honestly, this was what I needed to do. I needed to make this a band a reality. There was no band. It was just Roman and Rizzo. And I was like, I'm going to make them a band, and I'll do anything to do it. And I'll move to Valley Stream. And I actually subsequently moved to Valley Stream. I moved my ass to Valley Stream. But in the interim, what happened was, as I was answering ads, I got a call back from John S. Hall of King Missile, asking if I wanted to do this tour that I guess I had called the number, and it said like Atlantic Records band needs a drummer for a U.S. tour. I'm like, holy shit. So that's wild. So at that time, Garden Variety had begun, but this was still on the plate. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. That weekend, right before the tour began, like a moron, I'm playing Frisbee with my then girlfriend, and I ran into a glass window, and I had 10 or 11 stitches down my snare arm, like right here, Chris, like the worst area.
Oh my God.
Right. So I'm like a ballsy 21-year-old. I'll do the tour. This is going to be like, I'm going to play fucking great. Like, Jesus is way cool. I'm going to play all these songs like they're meant to be played. And subsequently what happened was, no, I didn't play great. I played okay. I played fine, but I was in agony. The stitches opened up. I had blood every night. I had I never had this before, but you bled as a drummer where you're like, yeah, you'll get the blood blisters, and then your stick like sticks to you, and you can't get it off.
Yeah.
So the whole, like, I was bleeding so heavily and so profusely that, like, Dave Rick would look over and I'd have blood everywhere, and I couldn't get the stick out of my hand. I was stuck like that. And so I'm like hitting a snare drum with no rebound, and I'm like breaking my forearm because I couldn't get the stick out of my hand till the song ended. I went like that. So the tour was fine. It wasn't great. And I ended up just being like, I just kind of blew it, but didn't blow it. It was just like, I played fine, but I didn't play like me. So when I got home, I made myself a vow. I said, I'm moving my butt to Valley Stream. I'm going to make this a full reality. And that was it. And then we made it a real band, and we practiced like crazy, and we wrote as much as we possibly could. And the rest is sort of, I don't want to say history, but the rest is worked out the way it worked out, And,
and it's such an interesting band from Long Island because of what was going on at the time. This is a couple of years, the origin of the band, like, for example, that self-titled record was recorded and released, but like shortly before I came into the picture in terms of going to shows. So at that time, you're looking at bands like Mind Over Matter, Neglect, Crumbsuckers. It's a pretty heavy scene, and then you guys are just completely out of left field. And I know later on there was bands like Sleeposaurus, and so like was there a community that you guys were aware of that, like, when you were in that band, like
No. I mean, like, just to answer your question thoroughly, honestly, this is coming directly. This is the truth. This is from the heart. We didn't know where we belonged. We know Roman had a really rich musical history. His uncle Freddie was like Freddie Proggs was a major player in the rockabilly scene in the 80s, like knew the Stray Cats, everybody. And so he was a musical guy already and had a decent record catalog, and, had great taste in music. He was the scroll bait sort of, Soul Asylum guy as well as Rizzo. And so we were already, like, when Rizzo met me, he said, I thought you were going to look like Dave Kerner. And I was like, no, I'm a Jewish guy from Queens. I don't have long blonde hair and ripped jeans. I'm just this, And so the music came out of this sort of crazy hybrid of, again, Talking Heads, Husker Du, Squirrel Bait, early Soul Asylum to mid-period Soul Asylum, all Susie and the Banshees, all of the stuff that was happening in DC, obviously all of the Discord catalog configured into what we became or what we were, early Jawbox, right? All that stuff was inherent in our brains, in our little community of Valley Stream, which was like, we all lived in a triangle. Roman and Rizzo grew up next to each other, literally a door away, or a couple doors away. And I moved to a house right across the street from both of them. So we were in a triangle. And so our musical taste sort of came together collectively. Like, if we're listening to Rodin, we're listening to Rodin. If we're listening,
yeah, that's a great band. I'm glad you mentioned them. And I can hear that because of discordant stuff going on. And that's what I can hear all those influences. There was, people don't realize Soul Asylum, which you mentioned a bunch of times, and I read in interviews was a big influence on you. But like those early days of that band were very different. And then there's all that DC influence, the Discord scene. Now, when you guys made your self-titled, which, man, that changed my life, hearing that record. At what point can you talk about, like, when you start getting out and playing shows and you start making connections? And because I watched you guys go from the PWAC to Irving Plaza, and go from local shows at YMCA to touring with major label bands. It was interesting to watch that sort of change around you a little bit, at the time, which was,
Yeah, I mean, and I also, Chris, I should not forget San Diego configured into that too. Pitchfork, and of course the early Rocket stuff, and Drive Like Jay's first record.
Big time, yeah.
I mean, Drive Like Jay's first record. I've heard other interviews with other bandmates of mine saying that I was very heavily influenced by members of that. That's not true, actually, but I was influenced by the fact that they were doing something that was completely revolutionary at the time that nobody was doing. And I remember the first time I heard Drive Like Jay, I was in the basement of Kim's, the one that was on. Was that not St. Mark's, the other one, the one that was off
Kim's Underground.
Kim's Underground, and I remember Chris actually played them for me, and he was like, "You got to hear this. I think you'll like it." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I heard Caress, and I was like, "Okay, let me buy it. I'm going home." And I played it for Roman Rizzo. Everybody was just blown away by it. But anyway, but yeah, they're an influence. They're just not a major influence, but they're definitely an influence on us.
Yes,
at least
yeah.
not for me. I love Trumpy Nose drumming, but that's a whole other thing. But anyway, what was I trying to say to you? So,
we were talking about that, like how you guys sort of came into like playing and playing out, really.
So that has a lot to do with your friend. That has a lot to do with Artie Shepherd.
Yes.
There's a couple of people here I have to name check that I'm not doing on purpose. They deserve it. There's people like, Artie Philly, Artie Shepherd. These are people who have melodic ears already, even though they both play very loud music at various times in their lives. But they went to bat for us, going to bat for somebody when nobody knows who you are, when they're like, who the hell are these three idiots? They're a little bit older than us. What is this? They went to bat and said, no, you don't understand. These guys are fucking rad. You got to listen to them. I mean, Shepherd had more to do with that. Of course, Vinny Segarra. Without Vinny Segarra putting out our first Mintone 7-inch, what would we be? I mean, he put us, we did a split with Dahlia Seed, our sort of sister band, our brother sister band. He made all that happen. Guys like Andrew Orlando went to bat for us, who's more of a metal-y, hardcore, Misfits lover type of guy. But
that was Reservoir Records?
Reservoir Records.
Reservoir Records. Now, let me just ask that Mintone 7-inch, you guys recorded that in Washington, D.C. with Don Zientara. Am I wrong? Or am I correct?
Yeah, Mintone, yes. That was done at Don Zientara. That was because we definitely were digging Jawbox and obviously Fugazi and all the entire catalog and Soulside. So we decided to get a little of that flavor by going to Inner Ear. I personally, I liked Inner Ear. I thought it was great, but it was actually, like, even the drums on that 7-inch are bizarre to me because they're gated. And I'm like, I can't believe Don Zientara is gating my drums, but they're gated. But, whatever. I just left it because I'm not going to fight with Don Zientara as a young, I can't believe I'm here in DC kind of thing.
Right. Well, this guy did minor threat. I just have to point that out because, being from where you're from, that's a pretty astonishing observation that this is a band from Valley Stream recording with Don Zientara Inner Ear Studios. But yeah, so I remember Dahlia Seed and 1.6 Band and all these bands that you ended up playing with. So you're saying Artie Shepherd and Artie Philly kind of helped you get integrated into the local scene and get on these cool shows.
There you go. That's why I was bringing them up, because all of these cats, and there's others too, by the way, that I'm probably forgetting that I shouldn't be, but there's plenty of people who helped us. There's people that would call Roman. I'd get a phone call from Roman 20 minutes later. Hey, Gorelick, do you want to do this show? And I would always say to him, why are you even asking me? Of course I want to do this show. We'll do any show. I mean, and that, by the way, that became the downfall of our band at the very end, because we did take maybe a tour we shouldn't have taken. But irregardless of that, we did take almost every show because I thought it was important, at least me particularly, I thought it was important to integrate our band into a scene that needed to be more like Minneapolis, more like DC, where DC had bands that were of different ilk. San Diego had bands that were of different ilk. Most famously, Minneapolis had bands that were completely different than each other. You had Husker Du with a guy who looks like a hippie and two guys who look like they like wrestling with a guy with a mustache. They're playing with the Meat Puppets who are playing with Black Flag. So
absolutely. I mean, you can draw that comparison now when you look back at that time, because I saw you with a Veil, I've seen you with Mind Over Matter. It's like it was just our version of that. And I don't mean to interrupt, but you're in a great documentary that still has not seen the light of day that I hope eventually does. We're in the trailer. It's called There's Something in the Water. You talk about that. Long Island still has yet to sort of get that sort of exposure beyond the mainstream bands or the bands from where we're from that sort of ended up.
You know what, though, Chris? It took a guy like Artie Shepherd or a guy like Artie Philly to make that kind of thing happen, because those guys could have easily just said, I'm transfixed on one form of music and we're only going to book one form of music. Or as young men, they could have been open-minded, which they were, and then bring guys like, what is 1.6 Band? Have you ever actually listened to 1.6 Band and you said to yourself,
weird,
what is this? But they're amazing. They're like one of my favorite bands ever. But,
Joe,
but he put them together and said, fuck it, we're doing this. We're going to book a night at the Angle in Mineola or whatever, and wherever the hell that is, Wilson Park. And we're going to put 6 great bands together that have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
And it created that Minneapolis flavor that I was talking about. You know what I mean?
Talk to me. Let's talk about your sound though, because you'll be surprised, man. We're like half an hour in. This breezes by when we have fun talking about stuff, and I really want to dig into the sound because what really struck me is first of all the creative process. I assume listening to it is a result of jamming with each other and kind of feeling things out. That's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't sound like one person saying, "I wrote this song. This is the drum part." It seems a bit of an experimentation, result of experimentation.
That's an excellent question, and I'll tell you why it's an excellent question. Because I did watch Roman's Age of Quarantine interview, and one of the things he said to Artie Shepherd was, God, it was so hard to write songs with Garden Variety. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. The difference between myself and Roman's terrific. He's the most talented guy I know, but is that I enjoyed the jigsaw puzzle. I think Rizzo did too. I think trying to figure out where the verse is, where the pre-chorus is, where the post-chorus part is, where the middle eight should really be, and figuring out that stuff, not so it's just like, oh, I'll just play that. I like the fact that, like Angie Boylan just did, in all respects. Well, if you listen to that song, think about that as a decent example. Rizzo or Roman could have brought that part in, and I could have just said, digga-digga-ba, digga-digga-ba-ba, digga-digga-ba.
Right.
No, fuck that. I took it the way that Ginger Baker would have done something, or Stuart Copeland, or even Mark Trombino, right? And like, what would I do to complement that guitar, that amazing guitar riff? What would I do to set the song up so that it has the strangest build to a crescendo? And that's I don't want to be cheesy, but that's the artistic side of it all, which is like, how do I take something that I could easily just play 4/4 beat on it, or 5/4, whatever. Right. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to purposely create something different, not to be tricky, but to be more musical and a little bit more adventurous. And so that to me was Garden Variety. And I think Roman maybe, I don't want to speak for Roman. Roman can speak for himself. But my guess on Roman is that when his next venture was something that's a little bit easier for him to formulate, song structure, which is very much where I came from with the Hasbros, believe it or not. This is a pop punk, not pop punk like Green Day, but like a poppy, punky, Robin Hitchcocky thing. And so I totally get that. It's just that when you have a guitar player as fluid and as incredible as Rizzo, who is still one of the most captivating guitarists
he's ridiculous, man.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous. Look, there's guys in the scene that are ridiculous. Mike from 1.6 Band he's bonkers great. Yeah. And I played with him. We just jammed for a little bit. He's incredible. But Rizzo to me is one of my favorite guitarists of all time. And I'm in a band with Jason Farrell, arguably one of the most incredible musicians, guitarists, creative heads in the world.
I listened to a song Harvard by you guys in particular, and I know that came up on the Roman episode, but the things going on guitar, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think he's using that much on there. I think it's a volume pedal. It's not like he's got like all these effects and things, and the soundscapes and all the colors and notes that he just, I don't know where his fingers are, but it sounds fucking gorgeous, particularly in that song. But that's why I wanted to know about the creative process, and I feel like you did a good job of explaining sort of like the influences and stuff like that. But so when you write an album, like, I mean, your albums had it wasn't like a 10-song album. You guys had a lot of songs. You must have spent hours on end just jamming in the house together to come up with this material, I would imagine.
I mean, we did and we didn't. I mean, we did a lot of demos that were never heard before or after. We did rehearse. I don't think Garden Variety was as hard a working band as we should have been. I think we all three would probably agree to that assessment. I think we could have actually worked even harder. I think what Roman says is probably true. It was hard to put the song together because there was three creative heads trying to do something a little bit more intriguing. And I think I'm giving a fair assessment of Rizzo and Roman and myself, that I think Rizzo comes at things at a little bit more of a Chicago sort of, or at least at that time, from a Chicago sort of POV, like, the Rodins of the world, let me make something that's beautiful, but also really interesting. But he also had that sort of Soul Asylum, sort of melodic rock thing. And then Roman was a whole other sort of ideology behind it. So when we all came together and we did rehearse this stuff out, it still, Chris, was more of a, like, are we going to make it to the end of the song without killing each other? Like, not that we were angry at each other. It's just that it really was like building a painting from scratch and seeing where it actually, the reason that I did the artwork the way I did it by the way, for the first album is what you're hinting at, which is there's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of a house that's teetering over. That was, to me, that was what Garden Variety was to me. That's the reason I went and sought out a picture from a 1920s earthquake, because I felt like we could collapse at any point, and yet we're trying to create something beautiful and mystical and mythical and propulsive. And so that's what that's all about. I hope that answers your question. That's a really weird way
Let me take some comments here. I'm just going to read you some shine. Mike Kirschbaum, what's up, man? Hi, Chris and Joe. Love Garden Variety. Saw them at Wetlands and filmed it. Now I just have to find the videotape.
Please do.
we got at Valen V from out in the, I believe that this guy's in the UK. You guys need to talk about how banging the red hair stuff is. We're going to get there. We're going to have to get there. We got Justin Skirty. What's up, bro? From
Skirty.
Played at Millhouse for a while. Huge fans of the San Diego music scene. You guys were totally right there. I'm going to give a shout out to Conrad Mata because he got me into your band and he's on here too. So, okay, it's going to be tough. I'm going to bounce around a little bit because I want to talk about all of your bands and what you're doing now. But sticking to Garden Variety for a second, was it a DIY thing the whole time, or because you got signed to Gern Blanston, you eventually ended up on into another tour? Like, were you did you get picked up?
I'm such an idiot. Like Charles, how can I not even bring up Charles? So Charles was probably the most important person out of any of this. So Charles, who was a little bit better friendly, I think, with Roman possibly than the rest of us. I just didn't know him that well at the time. He really, I mean, here's a guy who's a singer of Rorschach, who, again, just like Artie Shepherd, has this other sense to himself and listens to a whole smattering of different types of music. And so he took us under his wing, gave us a home at Gern Blanston after Vinny had helped us with the 7-inch and all that great stuff. Okay, I hope that answers part of your question. How do we keep stepping to different points? Gern Blanston was this, New Jersey label. Now we're talking to a whole new group of people, the Ted Leos of the world. We're meeting a bunch of Charles's friends who are also some of them from Queens, and like Andrew Orlando's or Will Tarrant, or people that were really nice to us and helped us and wanted us to succeed, even though they were, again, from a different musical genre. At least we perceived it as such at that time. And then from that point, from the Gern Blanston record that you bought, or hopefully you bought.
Oh yeah, I bought both of them. Yeah.
that could have gone to one other big label, a big indie that we had met with, but we were betwixt the two. I can't believe I used the word betwixt, but okay. We were betwixt two possible labels after Charles did such a marvelous job with our record. I mean, he put his own money into it. He played at great shows at John Hiltz's house, another great guy who helped everybody in the scene get places, and a drummer from Born Against, among other things.
Oh my God, legends, yeah.
Legend, yeah. He also, by the way, when I was hanging with Chris Franz and the Talking Heads one day and filming him for something, I saw a picture of John Hiltz on his wall, and I go, "Is that John Hiltz?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's our front of house board op." I'm like, "What?" So anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But so we were deciding on whether it was Headhunter Cargo, which had all the bands that you obviously love, I love, or whether we're going to go with this other great label that I'm just not going to bring up because I think we might have pissed them off at the time. But anyway, we decided collectively to go to Headhunter Cargo just because it was in our wheelhouse. It's like, okay, well, Pitchfork, Jehu, Rocket, Heavy Vegetable. I mean, we're in that vibe.
You're getting into the scene that you really are going to be embraced in, and it worked.
And we wouldn't be on Discord because we're not from DC or Bethesda or anything. So there's no way we're going to get into Discord Records, even though that would have been a great label for us. But no, that's not going to happen. But we did make it onto Headhunter Cargo, and that was a huge plus for us. And then we got my good friend Andrew Ellis, who became a big time booking agent and stuff for a lot of much bigger bands than us. He was a high school buddy of mine, and he ended up sort of pseudo managing us and road managing us, and got us, to your point much earlier, got us onto bigger and bigger shows. Like I booked the first Blonde Redhead show in Manhattan, believe it or not, because he was booking the Cat Club, or on 13th Street, if you remember that place. And he asked me, "Do you know any cool bands that need a big gig?" Because I got a spot, and I love the 7-inches by Blonde Redhead. We find them out on Steve Shelley's label, and he made some calls, and boom, So the point is that Andrew was connected and really helped us quite a bit over that period of time. But we didn't make it off of Head Under Cargo. Like, we probably could have gone into a major label. I'm kind of glad we never went that route anyway, because most of my friends that did.
It didn't really work out for a lot of those bands.
No.
Joe, let me jump in because I'm getting nervous about not being able to talk. No, this is great stuff. I'm just I want to make sure that we get to everything. But real quick, was there a Garden Variety demo? Is a question we had from Conrad here on the comments.
100%. Yeah, there's one or two demos. Yeah, there were definitely one or two demos laying around. There was a song called "Lately," as I referenced earlier. That was just an incredible song that nobody's ever heard that Roman wrote. That's just ridiculous. And then there was a bunch of other songs. One that I sang, believe it or not, because Roman didn't really want to sing it, that Rizzo kind of worked on with me. And then a couple of others. I have them all in my basement. I
might bug you for that. You need to get those to me, man.
I'll send it to you.
And I'm going to wrap up I know this is going to be tough to answer this question quickly, but I want to move on to the other bands. But when the band broke up, you want to briefly talk about why and how that happened without, I don't want to.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no disrespect. I wouldn't have done the box set. I did the box set myself, honestly. And I did it honestly in tribute to Roman and Rizzo, 100%. I didn't do it for my own fucking ego. I didn't make money. I lost money.
Amazing.
I lost tons of money doing it, and so did, I think, the label lost a little money too, because it was too expensive to ship, obviously, even though we tried our hardest. But anyway, the way we broke up was very simple. We did a tour with Into Another, fantastic band, great bunch of guys. Their crowd bummed us out so hardcore that I'm guessing, but I think the rest of my band kind of gave up. And we were also just it's not that we were fighting, we weren't cats and dogs fighting, we just weren't getting along the way that you should be getting along when you're on a good tour, or you're supposed to be on a good tour. And I think it bummed us out. And I think that we couldn't take it. And it just was a revolving door of like, are we going to be bummed out again? Are we going to be bummed out again? We're not playing with Superchunk. We're not playing with Jawbox. We're just doing one-offs with some of those bands, but we're on tour with Into Another. This isn't really right for us. And that crowd is killing us. And so we should have survived it. To this day, I'm angry that we broke up. Not really angry.
Yeah.
I'm let down by it. I think we could have done a great third record, but it is what it is. And Roman did a terrific thing with Radio 4, and Rizzo's done a million things with Vic Thrill and other bands that he's been in with his wife and stuff that are terrific. And so I'm very happy with where I landed. So it all went great. It went great.
And so then we get briefly. We'll talk about 52X. I think was either during or the next thing. Shout out to Sunken Temple Records, who have put out the cassette tape for a lot of people that remember that band. So talk about 52X, and then let's get into the Blue Tip Retisonic era.
So, and love to Davis, who's of course no longer with us. So I look up at the heavens, and hopefully he's looking down with hair as long as mine, because his hair was very long. So 52X was very simple. I was in Garden Variety, and this is the height of Garden Variety, like 93, 94 time. I think they had Rich Muller as a drummer for quite a while.
From the Last Crime.
From the Last Crime. Terrific drummer, terrific musician, by the way. And I think that what happened was he wasn't, at least not in the picture at that point. And all of a sudden I was sopping wet from coming off stage of Garden Variety, I think at PWEC, and a guy walks over to me in a trench coat. It was Mike. And next to him is Davis. And Davis just goes to me and goes, hey man, you gotta fucking play with us, man. Come on, man, you gotta play with us. Just like that. Like, I'll never forget it. Just, come on, Joe, come on. You just gotta do it. And he was he was like so adorable. And he looked like a member of the Young Ones. And then you had Mike just like pensive with like a nervous, like Andrew Dice Clay with a cigarette. I'm like, who are these guys? What the hell is this? And they gave me a little tape. It wasn't much. And it obviously didn't have any drumming or anything. And I said, fuck, you know what? Okay, like Garden Variety isn't doing that much right now. Let me go to Rockville Center and play with these guys in some shitty, dumpy rehearsal space that we ended up doing quite a few times. And it went great. It was like, I was like, fucking, what is this? Like, I don't even know what kind of music I was playing. I don't even know the time signatures I was in. I was creating.
It was wild. I saw the band once. It was wild.
It was totally bizarre, but what I liked about it, and I've told people this since, is that I liked the reckless abandon of it. Now, some of the lyrics caused a lot of problems in the scene, but I didn't care. I was like, well, I don't, have a sense of humor. Ruben is not a jerk. He's a very bright guy, actually. But regardless of that, the music I thought was really intense. and loose, but not so loose. It was like technically good, but also technically loose. So the push and pull of it is what I dug. And the guys were so crazy that if you had Davis ripping his hand open and Mike like in a trench coat, sometimes without, well, I'm not going to say anything, but he was in a trench coat. And then both guys are incredible guitarists in a weird way. And then Ruben was like our little rock star. And then we had Pete Chicata on bass, and other times we had Mike DiLorenzo, I think. We had like all these.
I think he's watching.
Cool
Shout out to Mike D. Yeah.
Mike D.
Yeah, that's the look. So that
I don't even know if he remembers playing with me.
I'm going to give a shout out to pick up the Liver Damage EP by 52X is out on Sunken Temple Records. If you could follow them on Instagram, it's on a cassette tape that's out right now. And that is that Garden Variety box set still available for everybody to check out?
Still available from Arctic Rodeo Records, and I think it's worth getting. Honestly,
it is. It's gorgeous. I was just spinning it the other day. I was so happy when that came out. Now let's talk Blue Tip into Retisonic because that's Jason from Swizz, and they are a Discord band in Washington D.C. How do you enter that picture?
Okay, so first shout out to Matt Dilge, my great buddy from San Francisco. I love him. But also Norm Brannon. I keep forgetting people, but Norm Brannon from Texas the Reason and other great bands. He obviously was one of the biggest supporters of our band. I mean, he laughs to himself that we never got big, even though he kept trying. But that's life. Who gives a shit? I don't care. I still have people writing me about the band. So Norm, if you're out there, like we still in love with you. We're still in love with you for helping us, and we know everything you did, and we still appreciate it. But anyway, okay. So
antimatter comp.
Antimatter
parts. Yeah.
And Ben Weasel helped us too because he put us on that incredible Lookout comp, and nobody knew who we were because I had submitted a song that was already released, and Weasel's like, well, I can't do that, dude. You gave me a song that I told you not to give me a song that was already released. I said, Ben, we don't have any other songs right now at the moment. We're still in writing phase. He's like, all right, just give it to me and I'll put it on. And he put it on without a name, and that became a whole thing for us too, where people were like, who's that band between Jawbreaker and whatever? And like it became a thing. But anyway, long story short, thank you, Norm Brannon. Like Brandon, oh my God, Norm, thank you so much. He's the best. But anyway, okay, and Jenny Ellisky too, another incredible supporter of ours. But so what happened was, Roman comes to my apartment. This is the truth. He comes to my apartment across the street, and he says, and he was so cool about it. He's like, I got to tell you, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you or whatever, but let's talk about it. And he told me the whole tale. Like, I think we should just end it now and just, go our separate ways and whatever. No plans of anything else. I think the band's over. And I said, let's go for a drive in my black, Civic, and let's just talk about it because I felt so freaked out. I had moved to Valley Stream. I was jittery. I was literally getting freaked out that the band was really folding. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought we'd take a break and get it back together. We took a drive. By the time we came back, it really was over. He was serious, and so we ended it. So I was sitting in my apartment going, what the fuck am I going to do? 2 days later, I get a phone call from a friend in the scene who said, hey, Joe, are you still in Garden Variety? Are you still in the band? And I'm like, no, actually, the band's folding. He's like, okay, well, there's a great band called Blue Tip, and I had already heard of Blue Tip because when we were staying on Kerry's floor, Kerry from what's that great band in Denver, Colorado? I can't believe I'm forgetting. You know them. They're an emo-esque band.
Oh, Christie Front Drive?
Christie Front Drive. We're sitting. I had a fever, so I stayed behind. The two guys in Garden Variety had gone and saw Blue Tip on the 101 tour. So they had already seen Jason and the band play. I didn't even get to see him. I was sick trying to get better for the next show. Anyway. So what happened was he said, Jason, needs your number. So I called Discord Records. I was like, hi, Joe from blah, blah, blah. You don't know who the hell I am, and I don't expect you ever do, but can you give me Jason Farrell's home number? And they're like, sure, of course, absolutely. And we know who your band is. I'm like, oh, my God, that's awesome. And then I called Jason.
That's fucking hilarious. Who was it? It wasn't Ian on the phone.
I think it was
just like some random employee of Discord.
Yeah, I mean, it's a while ago, so you're talking 1996, so I don't know who was manning the phones at the moment, but it might have been Brian. I don't know exactly who was there.
Okay.
I wish I could thank them now, but Jason couldn't have been cooler on the phone, and I'd seen a picture of Blue Tip, and I was like, these guys look like assholes. And the reason I say that is not because they were assholes. They just look so tough. Jason looks angry.
He had like a rockabilly thing going on.
He looked great. He was a rock star, but he looked angry. And I was like, these guys are probably going to hate my guts. And I just want to play with nice people because I'm just a Jewish guy from Queens. I want to get along with everybody. I don't want to fight with anyone. I just want to play good music. And you know what ended up happening? Jason couldn't have been a sweeter person. He was probably the nicest person I've ever entered into a band with, ever. And so I went down to DC with my cymbal bag, my pedal bag, my stick bag, and whatever the fuck else I had. And he picks me up on a little motorbike.
Wow.
Said, dude, I'm not going to make it on the rain in a motorbike, even though you're cooler than I am by leaps and bounds.
Shows up like James Dean vibe, you know?
Totally. And I took a cab, and I was like, I'll take a cab just so I don't kill you and myself with all the gear I have, because I had like 200 pounds of gear. And then we made it to his house. I jammed with the guys. It went great. And then I went on the 101 tour, the second half of the 101 tour, which was great. It was like 68 shows in 69 days or something crazy like that. And it was terrific. And it forged a relationship with Jason and I that has lasted, until right now, until after this.
Did you play on Join Us?
No, but I was in the van. So what happened was with Blue Tip was I was in the van when I was actually riffing on Join Us. So I was actually playing along to it. I was like, I was actually completely joining him on that riff. What happened was when I got home from that tour, I was so baked from all the touring I had done collectively, and I had no money at all. I mean, not a dime, even though my career had been going. So I said to my then gal, I said, I promise you I won't go away again, and I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to make money, because I know that you've suffered for months, me being on the road, and you're just sitting in this little apartment in Valley Stream. God bless you. Let me go get a job and try to make things right. And so I had to call Farrell and say, I hate even saying this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to bow out of this band. And he couldn't believe it, because they had a tour with Tool coming up.
Are you kidding me? That happened?
And I didn't do it, which is the stupidest decision I've ever made. I should have literally said to the employer that wanted to employ me, I'll be back in a month. Please keep my job.
Holy
but
shit.
I was so petrified of going away again and losing my relationship at that moment that I said to Jason, I can't do it. And he was really let down, but not angry, just let down. But he did it with another drummer who was terrific. And then they kept going through record and record. And Jason would always write me at these crazy times. I get snail mail from him. I'd be like, oh my God, this guy's such a sweetheart. He's writing me. I'm sitting here at my job in Manhattan, and I get this beautiful letter from Jason, like, I've been thinking about you. How you doing? I hope you're good. I'd love to connect again. So when he moved to New York City, to make a long story short, which I'm making very long, I vowed to him. I said, I'm never going to leave you again. I'm stuck to you like herpes, brother. I'm gonna be in your band for good, because what I did to you, but also because I think you're a genius. And so we started the real part of Retisonic, even though he had kind of begun it at the very tail end of Blue Tip ending with some friends. It really began when he moved to down the LES. And we started the band in like 2001 or 2000, something like that, 2001. And we really started the band. And we got a spot with rival schools on Allen and Rivington, and we rehearsed like crazy. We did a ton of touring. We really plugged away. I was between relationships, so I was able to tour whatever time I wanted to, and it was really great. And Jason and I both worked in the city, and Jason got me a gig, and now I got Jason a gig, so we helped each other through graphic design and communication design while we were still being a very productive band together. And that's how we sort of created Retisonic. We got our great friend Jim, shout out to Jim, who's hopefully watching, who's our bass player, who's awesome. And he's like a really great friend of ours, and that became the trio. And then what happened was he moved to LA, and when he moved to LA, we never ended Retisonic. But in the interim, he was going to do this another Swizz offshoot band, and he had sent tapes to Alex of Swizz, and it's not that he didn't like the songs, they just weren't up his alley, whatever that. Mm-hmm. However you want to phrase it, actually, it just wasn't hit for him. And Jason sent me the tapes because I obviously had a track record playing with him in Retisonic, and I was completely blown away. I was like, "We're doing this, dude. What are we calling it?" He was like, "Red Hair." That's it. I'm in.
I love that.
I'm in. And then ever since then, it's been 2 awesome records and some 7-inches, and we're very proud of that band, and it's great. We love Sean. Sean, obviously, I got to know.
Sean is a fucking legend too. He's
a legend. Yeah. He's a legend, and he's a genius. And Dave Stern, who's another incredibly talented, gifted guy. It's just a little micro family, even though we don't get to see each other very often. And the way things are working out, I'm going to get to be on a Retisonic record because we've already have a ton of tracks.
So there's a Retisonic record coming out eventually.
Absolutely.
Is that going to be on Discord?
No, I don't think so. I doubt it. Because we were never a Discord band. I have no idea where we're going to put that out. But the Blue Tip record will be happening. We recorded a bunch of stuff, and we recorded a bunch of stuff in LA that I still love to this day. So we've got tracks, and Jason and I have been talking a lot about it. And then definitely another third Red Hair record. There's no question about that.
Jason became your longest musical partner.
100% and most trusted. Yeah. He just doesn't go away. Like, in other words, he's exactly the kind of guy that I like. He wants to play no matter what. He doesn't give up. And, I don't.
It's amazing. It's inspirational. I mean, look at all of us. Yeah. We're still doing it. None of us stop.
I'm 52. He's 51. And we're still like, as long as people want to listen to it, I mean, there's a small group, but as long as they want to hear it, we're more than happy to record it and play it and hopefully tour it. But
the greatest thing about being a part of a niche community, man, is that there's always going to be people interested in what you're doing. It's not, like Jay Robbins played a solo show at St. Vitus a couple months before the pandemic, and he played songs from, various areas of his catalog, including new ones. And there were people there that have been going to shows forever that were there and having a great time. So I feel like that's the same for the stuff that you and Jason do together, Let me dive in, because like I said, this thing goes so quickly, man. But
you're right.
You and I know, right? But this is great. We talked about some great stuff, and this is going to be living on the St. Vitus Instagram, as well as being uploaded to my personal YouTube channel for everyone to watch again if you didn't catch the whole interview. And I want to talk about Indie Drummer Collective. If you guys follow at Indie Drummer Collective, it was started by Aaron Tate of Minus the Bear. Some of the members of our collective include you and I, Angie Boylan, who is in a band called Freezing Cold, but also the touring drummer of Sleater Kinney, Zach Lynn from Jimmy Eat World, Brian from Hum, so many drummers. There's about 75 to 85 of us, and we all record a lot of fun cover songs that fit into themes. And Angie did a great cover of Garden Variety on her personal page, and you have a bunch of stuff up. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. Before we're not going to wrap it up just a second. We still have 10 minutes, but do you want to let everyone know what you're up to right now, even though you kind of dove into it just a little bit?
So in this very room that I'm talking in, I'm going to be recording the 3 records we're talking about, the Redisonic, Blue Tip, and Red Hair, which is plenty. I think that's probably plenty of music. I'm also doing a lot. I did a lot of work recently with Jakey Lee, which I want to reference just because it was such a big part of my existence for about 2 years. Most people know him from, he's like a guitar hero, Badlands, Ozzy Osbourne. I got to, you and I talked about this, but I got to direct him in videos that have gotten ridiculous amount of views and likes, which are really, really awesome. I got to do and edit all those videos as well. I got to do all the cover art, redo his logo. Then I also got to, one night he called me and said, I need you to do a logo for me as my personal logo. And I was like, really? You're kidding. He's like, yeah, let's just keep texting back and forth on Viber and see where we get. I'm like, oh my God. Wait, look. This is for. He didn't let me what it was for. Recently, I come his GEL initials are, it's literally the logo that are all of his Friedman signature amplifiers heads. So they go for $4,000 a piece.
That's awesome.
And they're already sold out. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is I try to split my time helping. I know it sounds idiotic, but I did it for free because I try to divide my time right now in life by helping bands that I'm friends with or even other musicians for no money, pretty much, because I know what it was like to be a poor musician and not have a dime to my name, not be able to pay the rent or buy food. So I try to help out musicians. So I've been doing that in my spare time. I do a lot of that. Jason, of course, has always done millions of record covers, famous record covers and all that stuff, but I've done my fair share as well. And it's just funny that it ended up being Jakey Lee, which is, I did not expect that. But yeah.
But you started out as a metalhead though, so it's a full circle moment. I really love that you stayed creative in your entire journey since you were in your teenage years, which is something that I have done, as well. And it's just cool to kind of see you guys, as people I've looked up to for more than half my life, do something that I think shows that you can be happy and fucking like still remain passionate about what you do. You don't have to fucking sell out and fucking. I mean, it's not easy for everybody, but it's really just cool to see that you've done that. So I'm proud to know you still and see how creative you are.
Well, I appreciate that, and just just in keeping with that comment, when people ask me why do you still play or why do you still do that or put out records, I said because if there's a handful of people, even if it's like a couple of thousand or even less than a couple of thousand that really want to hear it, that's enough. It's enough to, I'm sure you feel this way, it's enough to get a nice email from somebody or a nice message from somebody saying, I've been listening to your record all weekend. That's it. I mean, I don't need to be a rich, famous drummer on Modern Drummer's cover. If you or I put out output that people are collectively like, oh shit, I really love what you did. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need much else.
Can I get you on a speed fire round of 3 questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Top 3 drummers of all time. No explanation. Just give them to me.
That's Buddy Rich's top 1. 2, from my personal view, Stuart Copeland. 3, that's really tough. 3, it might be Billy Cobham for me because Billy Cobham. Yeah, I might have to say Billy Cobham. I'm going to eat those words later, but Billy Cobham probably. Yeah. Oh no, Terry Bozzio. Sorry, Terry Bozzio. Okay. For me, Terry Bozzio, because I wouldn't have ostinadoed my way through life without that guy. So Terry Bozzio.
Okay, we got 4 minutes before Instagram knocks us offline. Now, do you think we'll ever see a Garden Variety reunion show ever? Is it possible?
I love you for saying that. Trust me, I do love you for saying that. But no, because it would have happened when the box set came out, and the Waters were not really. I don't think those guys want to step in. I think Rizzo does. I'm not sure about Anthony Roman. I don't think he really wants to retread those waters ever again, and that's totally, completely fine. I'm saddened by it, trust me, but it's his prerogative, and that's not calling him out. He has
no. I mean, some bands are better left sacred, who knows if we'll ever see Fugazi again? Maybe it's better that way, And then lastly, top 3 records. What are your top 3 records?
Another great question, man. Okay, James Lowe is one of my favorite drummers of all time, and I actually have his snare drum sitting right here. He's a friend of mine. James, I would say Chavez Ride the Fader is. Oh yeah. I'm not going to kid you when I say it actually might be my favorite record of all time, even though that's almost ridiculous. Bob Dylan, Times Are Changing, probably. What's that record that has Lonesome Death of Hetty Carroll? I think it's Times Are Changing. That's probably. I can't believe I'm forgetting the title of this record. I was just listening to this morning, but I'm too tired. Third record, believe it or not. I mean, do you say a jazz record? Do you say Rolling Stones? I don't even know how to even put that together.
I'm putting you on the spot, so it's okay. We understand.
Let's say Spring Session and Missing Persons, just because that completely blew my mind as a drummer.
I'm going to inject this really quick before we say goodbye, but I actually jammed with Matt Sweeney one night in a really weird situation because I think he was just up drinking and partying with people, and I got a phone call from a mutual friend, and I had no idea who he was the entire time we were jamming until I left.
Oh, my God, dude.
Yeah, it was like me, him, Chris Spencer from Unsane. I didn't know who he was, or that he was. It was like a buddy of mine was like, "You want to play drums and jam with me and some friends?" I think they'd been up for 24 hours at like Motor City, and they just hadn't slept, if you know what I mean. And then when I left, I was like, "That was who?" And we recorded an EP that we wrote and recorded on the spot at a studio that's not out, and I'm trying to fucking make that happen.
You're going to send that to me. If I send you the demos for Garden Variety, you're going to be sending that to me.
Yes, yes. I want to thank you so much, dude, and I'm going to just tell everybody right now, if you have not bought that Garden Variety box set, buy it. Follow Arctic Rodeo, and buy the 52X EP from Sunken Temple and everything that fucking Joe does. I am so excited that you have 3 records coming out. I did not see that coming. I can't wait, man. Yeah, you've been such a big deal for me, so I'm happy to know you, man.
Dude, honestly, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, because you're not exactly not an unknown drummer, so I really do appreciate that. And all the great work you've been doing on this series has been freaking amazing, so I appreciate it.
Well, I hope we can hang out in person when everything gets back to normal. I'll be giving you a call, man.
Awesome, dude. All right.
Okay. Stay safe out there, and regards to you and your family and all your loved ones, man.
Thanks. You too. To everybody you know as well.
Thank you, brother. Peace out. Peace. was a really great treat for me, everybody. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you enjoyed that or missed any of it, it'll be up here on the St. Vitus Instagram and on my YouTube channel. If you look up Chris Enriquez, lots of great episodes on there. Coming up, we have a lot of amazing guests. Igor Cavalera from Sepultura is going to be joining us next week, and we just have a